Started. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Friday, March 22nd, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is... we have here our 6 of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy. Why are we seeing this card in its reversal today? Because as we said, one of the things that we recognized and identified was potentially happening right now was this modality that we see that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency. What did I say was happening yesterday? You're firing on all your engines. You're energetically firing on all of your engines. But what is happening? What is the energetic reflection point that the energy is giving to one another, seeing someone energetically firing on all of their engines? What is that act of compassion? This is literally that moment of amplification that's potentially happening right now, because again, in the divine union frequency, it's not just the fact that you're doing that for the sense of the self. You're doing that for the energy that's around you, right? This is almost that moment of, again, many hands make the work lighter, but then there's that moment, and this is why we want to make sure we don't fall into that state or space of comparison in the divine union frequency, because I'm even seeing here, this isn't coming from a modality of comparison. This is coming from a lot of this energetic desire that we see, that a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is doing everything that they can to try to manifest that future point into the present more actively, recognizing and identifying that, half the act of manifesting, thinking something isn't good enough. You got to put that energetic point into play. So what do we see that the energy in the divine union frequency is doing? They're putting a lot of that elbow grease in. They're trying to speed up the cycles. They're trying to move a little bit faster energetically. But this is that moment that almost feels like that energetic act of compassion where you gently take something out of someone's hands and go, you can rest now. You can just calm down a little bit. You can ease up, as it were, right? Because this is the work of the energy. What happens when we move into that frequency? When, again, what happens in that combination energy, that magnificent combination energy? When we love what we do what we love, we feel like we're doing it for the energy around us, that sensation of even when we amplify that energetic anxiety into a point of energetic joy, there is that modality that almost feels like that expression of wanting to do more, finding more things to do. And the energy around each other right now is almost trying to say, this is weekend energy, saying it's okay. You can energetically take a break. Because why? What is the energy in the divine union frequency saying to one another right now? The energy is saying, I hold that template of your best version of self towards you at all times, but that doesn't energetically mean that means that you have to be constantly trying to do better to match that template, because this is the energy saying, I see you, I aspire you, everything that you are in this moment is perfect. The connectivity point does not require that level or degree of advancement. It is one that simultaneously feels like that energetic match point in terms of identifying and saying, I aspire for us to become our best versions of self, but recognize that every step on that journey, you are perfect just the way that you energetically are. For the energy of the divine union frequency, this is even now why there's almost that educational moment for both masculine and feminine energy that's almost saying it's okay to take a little bit of that energetic rest point, because you deserve that moment that you don't necessarily feel like you have to energetically give to everyone around you, right? Being able to do that right now, that is almost that act of compassion, because this is the energy that recognizes that matching point, seeing someone working in a certain capacity and wanting to match it, almost requires the self to be able to energetically put something down so that someone feels that, I'll put it this way, if you ever have a guest in your house and you're moving around and they feel uncomfortable, they only feel comfortable when you sit down. This is pretty much one of those moments that we're seeing to a certain extent, where a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is I need to if I want this person to do what I aspire to them to do, I need to do it myself, right? Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency right now. This modality, this observational point, if you will, coming into the divine union frequency, this is that expansion point in terms of recognizing that sense of even now. This is, I want to say, this is what we're seeing feels like a lot of that energetic recall of energy, if you will. A lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is that moment that almost feels like a lot of this like energetic recall, if you will, because a lot of this energy recall that we're seeing has to do with a lot of the energetic shifts that we've been observing have been happening for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. And this is that modality that it's not uncommon to see this when the energy is coming into the divine union frequency, because this is that moment that feels like the amplification of the need to be able to prioritize what you're creating as opposed to what is outside of oneself. So one of the things that we identified that we even saw right now that was happening, what was creating a little bit of that intensity with a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency, was that breakthrough point, that power of observation, that ability to observe something and see something from a different perspective. A lot of the like having a very overwhelming moment, potentially a lot for the masculine that's experiencing this right now. For feminine, seeing a masculine that's able to ride that current, able to emotionally ride that current and not let it shake their own intentionality in terms of what they're building with the feminine, that is the amplification of what commitment looks like to a feminine. Right? That is a feminine energy that feels like that amplification of truly building forth with a feminine masculine, because that is a feminine energy that sees a masculine energy go through that point of emotional overwhelm and almost is learning how to internally alchemize it to the sense of not letting it shake them from their own intention and what they're building with the feminine, thereby energetically showing the feminine to a certain extent that the masculine has learned the most important, most protective power that feminine aspires and desires to see from a masculine, which is masculine energy learning how to protect the feminine energy from their own self, right? That ability of a feminine to see a masculine being able to process through and even energetically amplify, even if now there's a moment of masculine talking about what they're emotionally feeling, feminine energy is already saying, you've done it. This is a feminine energy saying you are expressing your love to me, because not only are you showing me that I am your energetic confidant, but you're also showing me that you are someone who does not allow their emotions to drive the directionality of where you're going. You're able to energetically alchemize and process them and let them be a moment that you can speak what you are feeling, but not let it energetically move you. Continuing to maintain that point of intentionality and purpose even while you are feeling a surfeit of emotions. That to the feminine is feeling that sense. And this is the masculine almost saying to the feminine, I'm not doing anything. And this is the feminine going, exactly. Yes, you're not doing anything. That is the fact of the feminine saying your ability not to just activate on how you are feeling is the energetic gift. You've learned how to do that. That's feminine saying to masculine, coming into divine union, you're doing everything. Do you know how hard it is to be able to do that? Feminine knows this. Seeing a masculine that's able to navigate that is feminine saying, not needing to look any further. That's a feminine saying, what you're doing and the fact that you feel like it is so intuitive, so intrinsic, is the sign of basically, again, how far you've come on your own journey. That is the feminine energy, almost trying, it's like literally feminine energy trying to articulate something to masculine that is hard to put into words. I hope this is energetically helping with that. Masculine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is that moment that again, you could be feeling that frustration because you're feeling what is best described as like an energetic overwhelm point, and you don't know what to do. So what are you doing as you build a connection with feminine? You're just telling them how you're feeling and you don't know what to do. And this is that moment that you may not even recognize the fact that that ability to do so is a breakthrough point. That ability to allow yourself to feel that energetic expansion, but not have it motivate you in a direction that is against or oppositional to your own intentionality and purpose. That's the battle. Like that is the energetic battle. So we see even now that that is a masculine energy that is again feeling that uncertainty. It could even be a moment of the masculine. Like I said, there's a difference between an energetic crisis or an energetic breakthrough. They're very similar depending on how you view them. So this could even be a moment that feels like the amplification of an energetic crisis point, but that suddenly brings that point or that power of energetic understanding, because your own ability to navigate through it energetically is almost showing the body of energetic work that you may have potentially done to be able to reach that point. Masculine and feminine energy in separation, there could be evidence that is occurring right now for a lot of the energy in separation, which is like all the difference of someone who is intuitively on the path of understanding this versus someone who isn't energetically there. And that's why we see even now, this is that moment that may be allowing for a lot of energetic healing in separation, because this is that moment where, again, you can't hold, like it's tricky. You can't hold someone accountable for something that they don't understand, but you can identify that they don't understand it and do what is necessary to energetically like allow or facilitate that point of being able to understand it your own self. So this is one of those moments that we're almost seeing right now. A lot of the energy, I know that sounded confusing. Let me clarify, because it's a confusing concept, okay? Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. The feminine energy, again, potentially seeing examples of what they were seeking in another, in the energy around them, and seeing how fluid, seeing how effortless it comes, is the observation point of feeling like you're in alignment with someone who's already done the body of work that's required to be able to have and navigate those lessons. There's a certain part of path work that you can't say to someone, you can't ask them to do unless they want to embody it, unless they observe that it needs to be changed. So even now, this is almost speaking towards a lot of the feminine energy, unpacking to someone something that they may be feeling is coming like energetically fluidly from someone else, and being like, I wish I could help them see that. I wish I could help them understand that, but also realizing the inviolability point in being able to do so if someone isn't on that journey for themselves, right? Masculine, same exact thing, and potentially in separation right now, which is, again, what happens when we have that moment of observing and saying, there's something that I was trying to show someone, that regardless of everything that I tried to show them, there was a lack of understanding. Is that coming into that state of righteousness in terms of looking at someone and saying they're wrong? No. What happens? That moment of peace in terms of saying, we were on very different paths. We were on very different paths. We were working on different lessons. We had different workbooks. We were in the same classroom. We had different workbooks, right? That ability to recognize and identify that is a lot of the energetic catharsis point that's potentially happening right now in separation. And it's a moment, I told you, that is amplified by personal accountability, not blaming the external factor, but also recognizing and better defining why something wasn't moving as fluidly as you may have aspired or desired it to. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is the Star card in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is that moment that feels like a lot of that energetic, I want to say like that energy of acute regret, but it's happening in different ways. And that's why I'm saying right now, if you're feeling regret, I want you to recognize and identify that that is the valuation point. That is the gift of a lesson that is arriving, right? I don't want you to move into that space of just holding on to the grief. I want you to seek out the lesson that any of that energetic grief was potentially creating in you, because that moment of looking back and wishing that you had done something different is exactly the moment that a very deep valuable lesson arrives, right? Holding space and holding grace for that is really important during this period. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is the feminine energy that's, again, going through that process and almost forgiving themselves energetically. What is the feminine energy in separation saying to themselves? If I was in a space or place where I felt like someone wasn't valuing me, maybe my mistake, maybe that wasn't the factor of me not doing enough to earn that. Maybe that was the energetic equivalent of someone who wanted different things. If I wasn't feeling seen, if I wasn't feeling being able to be my most vulnerable self, maybe that is also, again, that's not taking the burden of blame on oneself. That is saying to oneself, that is that moment of saying, did I ever see that energetic expression in that person? Did I ever witness? Did I ever see the signs that something was there? This is feminine energy and separation going through that process of healing and almost energetically forgiving themselves. And how is the energy of feminine energy forgiving themselves? Through that act of both accountability and a valuable lesson learned. Feminine energy almost saying to themselves in separation right now, even potentially working this through with energy around them. If this is a feminine energy that's saying to themselves in separation, I never felt like that person valued me. I never felt that that person was loving me correctly. I always hoped that if I did something, I could bring that out in them. And this is the energy around the feminine saying, did you ever see evidence that it was there? Did you ever see evidence that that was there? Because that is that moment that, again, what happens in that point? That is the observational power of the feminine understanding and saying and seeing what they can look for in the future that'll help amplify the value of the lesson of the past. So what is the feminine energy in separation learning? If you don't energetically see something in someone, you can't aspire for the hope that it will be there. You must just assume that what you see is is the truth, right? Is the valuation point. So we see even now a lot of the feminine energy in separation coming through that moment of interior recalibration, if you will, but not doing it from a state. And this is feminine energy saying, like, again, I don't want to say I blame myself, but I learned a valuable lesson. I learned a valuable lesson. Masculine energy in separation. If this is a modality of, again, this is a lot of the masculine energy, and this is why I see that a lot of the masculine energy is going through more of that period of energetic regret right now. Because if this is masculine energy that feels like they did a lot of path work with an energy of a feminine, but it was all based on like a wall of illusion that you potentially built around a feminine, this is the masculine energy taking that point of accountability, saying, that energy wasn't in alignment with me, but that's because I never gave them anything to be in alignment with. If I was never showing that energy my true self, then of course that energy did not know what to expect from me. Of course that energy was always moving in that space or place of being uncertain, because this is the masculine energy saying, again, how can I expect to bring forth the energy that's in alignment with me if I'm not willing to give that forth? How can I expect the feminine to be vulnerable if I am not vulnerable? Like attracts like. So we see even now a lot of that masculine energy also potentially going through this process of energetic accountability, saying what they recognize is that lesson or that valuation point that they're able to take going forward. Masculine and feminine energy that are coming into divine union right now, this is a lot of that energetic lesson that is arriving at the point of you entering deeper into the heart of the divine union. That method or that aspect of being able to understand your own personal path work so much that you suddenly have that point of clarity on something. It's going to be easier for the feminine right now as opposed to the masculine. For the feminine, seeing evidence of something that you haven't seen before, it feels like a bit of an energetic blow because it reminds you of all the spaces and places wherein you didn't receive it, wherein the paths were not in alignment. Masculine, if this is something that you're leading forth with feminine, you're building something solid, you're building that level or degree of openness, you're learning that ability to stay forth and not let your energy, your emotions self-sabotage you or move you away from what you aspire and desire. This is masculine energy even now, feeling the weight of what it may have energetically taken to learn that lesson. But even now, what is the masculine energy in this modality doing, and the feminine? They're utilizing that path work. They're utilizing those lessons. They're putting them into effective practice, if you will, by saying, I'm not going to repeat those lessons. I'm not going to repeat, and we're not going to call them mistakes. We're not going to call them mistakes. We're going to call them lessons, because this is the energy basically saying, I am going to make those lessons worthwhile. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is a bit more difficult to navigate because, as we said, there isn't so much about this that allows for that room of huge energetic shifting. This has more to do energetically right now in terms of the energy, being able to give themselves a little bit of that energetic easement, if you will. Masculine and feminine energy. In the divine union frequency right now, what we're energetically seeing is that ability to recognize and understand, if you will. Seeing that moment, feeling like you've been firing on all cylinders. Even now, we see the energy in the divine union frequency doing a lot of that work. This is that moment that feels like that point of energetic easement. Right? I want to say that this is almost one of those days where it feels like you have to like energetically like take the work out of someone's hands, because this is that moment or that valuation point that we see to a certain extent that the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency has been working so hard to become that version of their highest self, motivating each other in that fashion, that it almost requires that moment that feels very difficult, because the only way you can get someone to like energetically slow down is if you yourself energetically slow down, right? So this is almost like that, like, I want to say that like healthy mirroring, if you will, right? Which is like, come into that state of easement, like put down that work, do that difficult work right now. But we see that both for masculine and feminine energy, that is that moment that feels like that gift of saying to someone, I appreciate and I adore that you want to become something better, but I also want to enjoy you just the way that you are. I want to be able to, what's the point of working so hard in that capacity if we don't have those moments of energetic enjoyment? Third card in our 5-card spread for today is 10 of Swords in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy. Having a little bit, I want to say, like, this is almost like that moment that feels today like a little bit of that like energetic recess, right? It's almost looking at something and saying, is there something that can wait for tomorrow? Is there something that you can do a little bit later? This is almost that moment of like almost energetically saying to someone, sorry, I meant reversal, saying to someone, what that, and this is what's really important about this. We saw this coming through yesterday. Okay. One of the things we see is very important right now is remembering and an understanding that the energy in the divine union frequency is working very hard in terms of identifying what energetically feels like what can be best described as that moment of sustainability. What feels like that moment of being able to do something in a way that feels like it is sustainable. And we see even now that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, that ability of, again, putting one's own personal self, like this is why we see even now for the energy in the divine union frequency, it feels like a little bit of energetic fine tuning, if you will. Because this type of energy, what we're really seeing here, it almost requires, as it were, this moment of individual or personal assessment, right? That ability or that degree of basically wanting someone to be in that state or space that feels like they're doing like what they feel like they need to do, but the way that they want to do it is almost like that energy of care, right? That energy of like, I want to say like continually checking in on someone energetically in a way to say like, hey, like, are you okay? What can I do? But not like, again, it almost feels like a little bit even here of like fastidiousness, because that is that modality that we see that can feel so difficult because it requires that ability to like navigate through in terms of feeling like, again, you don't want to create a limitation point for someone, but you also want to make sure that they're in that modality wherein they are doing the things that are necessary that are going to allow for that perpetual sustainability factor. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, moving into that space and almost helping someone energetically recognize what feels like it can wait versus what feels like it needs to be pushed forward right now. It feels like a little bit of that, like, again, calibration, if you will, but all for the sake of being able to find that point that feels like that comfort level between finding your own personal center of growth versus not wanting to push someone too far beyond what they feel like they are energetically comfortable with, right? That is that gift that we see that is happening for a lot of the energy in that modality right now. It's hard, it's difficult work. It's a lot of, like, I want to say, like, precise fine tuning, if you will. But again, done with a lot of that, like, sense or degree of energetic compassion and love, right? Like, just like a lot of careful, I want to say a lot of that, like the kind of like careful energy that we see when we care about someone. And we are able to like see those variations in them very, very acutely. Masculine and feminine, and it's fastidious. I'll say it's a very fastidious energy today. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is that modality that feels energetically like a lot of the path work that you may have experienced in the past is now feeling like it can come. It's like this is the beauty of wisdom, right? What happens with the beauty of wisdom? It's those moments or those opportunities where we're able to hold and look at all of the things that may have potentially happened in the past with a level or degree of clarity that thus allows us to move forward in such a way that we're able to put them into practical application. So what is occurring right now for a lot of the energy that just went through a lot of that energetic overwhelm, if you will, in terms of recognizing and identifying and better understanding the past? It is a energetic celebration point, if you will, because what is the energy right now doing in that modality? They are saying, I cannot go back and change the past. I need to be grateful because that past brought me forward to where I am now. Now is the time that I can create that state or space of energetic change. So in a way, this is that moment that we see is the amplification point that allows for that sense of catharsis, but also that ability to allow both, like I want to say, like the past lesson and the present to exist, specifically due to the fact that it is creating that opportunity wherein you can put those points of wisdom, those difficult lessons, into tangible practice. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is a lot of that energetic feeling of understanding that is potentially arriving around situations and circumstances wherein you may have had to do that hard work of walking away from something, coming into that state or space of understanding. But what is happening for a lot of the energy in separation that's doing that hard, compassionate work? It is that moment of identifying what one needs to change within the self, right? It's not just enough to see and say they were not perfect, neither was I. That ability to identify and recognize taking a valuable lesson from something that you can put into practical application in the present is affirming a lot of the journey energetically right now for a lot of the energy in separation, which is coming through potentially in seeing the energetic results of putting that work into practice. For feminine energy, that may be feeling like that path of discernment, only moving towards things that show a sign of having what you aspire to receive from them. While for masculine, having that modality of potentially recognizing and trying to lead forth in a place of being your most honest, authentic, vulnerable version of self. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here Knight of Pentacles, and that's beautiful because what we're energetically seeing to a certain degree is that moment, or that is that modality wherein it feels like it is energetically worthwhile, right? A lot of the energy in separation, that's the problem with a wisdom journey. It's not that you're grateful, it's not that you're happy that something hard or difficult happened to you. You probably would have preferred that it didn't energetically happen. But your ability to extract understanding, your ability to take something of deep energetic value from a difficult, painful experience adds value to that experience. It creates that energetic gift, if you will. And we see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation, having had to go through what may have felt like an energetically difficult process, which may even now feel like it is energetically difficult. It's not that it gets easier. The things that we carry remain on our backs. It's just that we get more accommodated to being able to carry them. So even now we see that moment of accommodation being able to learn how to energetically carry something is effectively happening for a lot of the energy on that healing journey. And what is effectively helping create that point of catharsis for the energy and separation that is experiencing that, seeing the valuation point on why that may have been energetically worthwhile. Masculine and feminine. For masculine, learning that valuation point and being able to bring forth the feminine in a way that feels like it is vulnerable, but maybe already showing some tangible points of result, that deeper understanding. And we see here that for a lot of the masculine energy, you're not doing this. You're not doing this for what it will elicit in feminine. You're doing this for the sake of your own self. This is a journey of self that leads you into harmony with energy that's in alignment with you. While for feminine energy, this is that modality that we're effectively seeing, that again, utilizing that power of discernment and only allowing things towards you that show evidence of having the things that you aspire and desire to receive from them. So for the masculine energy in separation, this is a pathwork of vulnerability. For feminine, this is pathwork of discernment. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is potentially why you're in the divine, coming into the divine union frequency. Because what, like, working through, like, that's when that's moment that feels like, again, someone saying, you make it seem easy. It's not easy. Like, it's not energetically easy to learn those lessons. Once you navigate them, this is the energy. If someone says, like, you know, it took a lot of strength to become this, like, to become that, for something to look that easy. It took a lot of training to be able to do something that feels like it's kind of like, you know, easy, because that's that moment of saying the value, the weight of the lessons that one needed to carry to be able to come forward in that way. Even now is the amplification point of the energy supporting one another and saying basically, and this is the beauty and gift of the energy coming into the divine union frequency, I trust your judgment. I trust your energetic judgment. For the feminine, it's that pathwork of energetic discernment. For masculine, it is that sense of energetic commitment towards the feminine. So even now, this feels like that calibration point, because what exists between these energies, it doesn't even feel like it's something that is tangible. It feels like that unspoken, unwritten, spiritual, energetic agreement that masculine and feminine make towards one another, which is feminine saying, I will always utilize discernment. Masculine saying, I will always try to give you my most vulnerable aspiration of self. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union. This modality that we're effectively or energetically seeing here, this space in divine union right now, this is what we want to see, is almost feeling like that gift of providing each other that sense or that level of energetic rest, if you will. For masculine and feminine energy, as it were, what we are energetically seeing is, again, the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is moving through that modality wherein they're, again, almost saying to one another, I see, I aspire, and value that you want to be in that space or place of being your highest version of self. Know that you don't necessarily need to be for me. The hurdle that we're energetically seeing for the energy in the divine union frequency is almost that energy of being like, I know I'm going to be doing that anyway. Like, because that's that moment that almost feels like that significant aspect of doing, like, again, that's that moment of someone saying, like, you know, you don't have to do that. And the energy being like, I know, but you know I'm going to anyway. Because that's like a little bit of that energy of like compassion and love. Where again, you're not doing it for the sake of someone asking you to do something. You're just doing it because it feels natural. Because it just feels like something that you would do anyway. So even now we see that in a way is the fine tuning of the energetic discernment that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. That sensation or that ability of seeing someone that's giving a lot of that energy that way and saying, like, you know, you don't have to do that. And someone being like, well, you know I don't have to. I know you don't want me to. I'm going to do it anyway. Like, it's really that type of energy, because that is the energy of love, right? So even now, it could feel like a little bit of that fastidiousness, but it's that fastidiousness that's amplified by the energy of care that says, well, I appreciate that you move that way. I appreciate that you utilize that power of fastidiousness in a way that it doesn't just extend to one's own self, but it's ever mindful of the energy that's around you. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is Temperance in its reversal. So we see even now, I have to stress here, I got to stress it, in the energy, there is something here. It's all that's been coming through. Guys, you just need to kneel. Please do what I'm telling you to do. Okay? If you are feeling anxiety, I want you to manifest and say, I am excited. If you are feeling anxiety, I want you to say to yourself, I am feeling excited. Okay, I just want you to move that through right now, because there is that feeling of anticipation that is arriving with a lot of this frequency right now. What do we want to do with it? We don't want to sit there and let that energy of anxiety override the experience. I want you to tell yourself, I am excited. Okay? Put a different face on it, all right? Let that be that moment. Move that into a calibration point of feeling the excitement. So even now, we see that what is the energy in the divine union frequency doing right now to ascertain what feels like it is something that is a positive versus a negative. They're literally looking at each other. They're looking at the counterpart energy and saying, are you excited? Or are you anxious? If you're anxious, you're probably pushing yourself too hard. If you are excited, then this is probably the right direction to head into, right? Because that navigation point, that is the internal GPS system effectively coming into play in relationality to how you are energetically experiencing something. So being able to look at something and be able to energetically say to oneself, I am not anxious, I am energetically excited, is also going to be a way that you can help process that energetic frequency within your own self. And even now we see a lot of the energy, and what's funny about it is I can see the energy going, are you excited or anxious? And someone going, like literally going, it's like one of those things, as it were. So just be a little mindful of that as you continue forward from this point. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency. This is that moment that we see that is potentially being amplified by that feeling of someone saying, prior to this point, I always felt anxious, but I am able to see these things with you and I feel excited. Someone who's able to, again, help you, having a counterpart energy that is able to help you energetically move something out of anxiety into excitement is what we see is amplifying a lot of the energy that is coming into the divine union frequency. Because that is that moment of, again, what happens when we're able to navigate through and not amplify anxiety, but instead amplify the excitement. That is finding energy that feels like it is aligning because it is helping you move that energy into a positive construct. I will say this does not mean that these are energies that are rely on another person to be able to do that for themselves. These are energies that have effectively or energetically been doing the work in terms of learning how to navigate their own energy enough so that they're able to find a complementary expression that feels like a counterpart that allows that to feel like an easy process. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is being able to learn how to do that within your own self. We just flat out see a lot of the energy, right? The frequency is almost saying energetically, like, all right, that's it. We're just giving this energy to everybody in separation. Like this ability to do so right now. But again, it's not just coming towards you. It's not just coming towards you coincidentally. It's coming towards you because you made that choice. It's coming towards you because you made that difficult choice, right? Your choice to focus on your healing, and not just for your own healing, that sense of being able to energetically do something to facilitate healing in another, even if you knew energetically that it wasn't, you didn't know, you still don't know if that's actually going to be something that happens. That is the expression of a healing journey. Doing what you know you would do, even if you didn't know the outcome would result in what you anticipate or hope to do, right? That is that energetic Yahtzee moment. That's that moment of saying, I would move this way anyway, right? So for a lot of the energy that's basically moved onto that path of moving with intention, doing the right thing, even if it is energetically difficult. This is that moment that we are seeing is the amplification. And even now, questioning oneself every way that you go, because when you move with intentionality, you're always questioning yourself at every turn, right? That is that moment that you're allowing, like you're getting a lot of this internal healing that's coming through with the understanding of being able to figure out how to energetically move that anxiety into a point of energetic excitement. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. And even now, that's that moment of being able to take a valuable lesson, but transforming, allowing that point of transformation, because now you're saying, I understand this. I wonder what will happen if I put this practice into energetic play. What happens now that I've learned this act of discernment? Feminine's like, what happens if I do all that work with someone that's energetically in alignment with me? Masculine saying, what would happen if I do that work with someone that I'm building in an honest, authentic expression with? Am I anxious about that, or am I energetically excited? Continuing to get clarity on these points between our Six of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Star card in its reversal. I know they're in the reversal. It's fine. This is hard. These are hard lessons. We're not afraid of reversals. One card to clarify, please. We've got here our Knight of Swords. You know, even now, one of the things that we're energetically seeing is occurring for a lot of the masculine energy in separation. This is really a question of energetic direction at this point. Because we see even now that some of the masculine energy in separation, the only hurdle around this has to do effectively with what you're going to energetically do with a lot of this work that you've been doing with your own self. Because I see even now that for a lot of the energy that is in separation, this is either moving, I'll put it this way. This is hard to explain. Masculine energy, even now, is feeling this navigation point in separation, saying feeling this drive into a certain direction. But this is also masculine energy that is trying to pull up on their own energetic reins, if you will. Why? Because we're seeing here that even now, this is a masculine energy that's learning to energetically catch themselves. Even now we see that it's creating this but then it's this pullback point, if you will, that's happening even in separation, because this is a masculine energy that, even now, this is either masculine energy in separation that is leading forth from a place or space of vulnerability. What's happening right now if masculine energy is leading forth from a place of vulnerability and they're finding that feminine connection in kind? It wants them to, masculine wants to, it builds that desire to, move faster. But this is masculine almost saying, has to be at the feminine energy's own comfort. That's the whole point. That's a masculine even now learning that act of, energetic, self-control, if you will, because that's a masculine catching themselves, catching your own self as you're experiencing that. You're being okay, it's that moment of you're you hear that starting line and you catch yourself even about to move. So a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now is navigating that moment by feeling what they're feeling, but not just activating on it, having that moment of almost allowing that energy to help us in that. That's that moment of what are they feeling intuitively called towards, right? This is masculine energy that is recognizing that within themselves, almost allowing for that space, but then saying, wait, investigating what that movement is. Feminine energy in separation right now. This, because even now we see that this is either masculine energy that does not want to move. Like if they're building with this state of authenticity with feminine, there's an anxiety of not wanting to, again, self-sabotage, get in their own way by moving too quickly. Or this is, again, that masculine energy in separation, having that moment of looking back, and now if wanting to lead with a state of authenticity and clarity, suddenly looking back and being like, is there that opportunity? Like, is this a moment of being able to build back with someone that you feel like that energetic lesson? Like, this is literally a lot of the masculine energy right now in separation, feeling a little, I want to say, like internal disorientation is the word for it. So again, that's why even now we see that there's a lot of masculine energy that's like saying, like, where is my heart guiding me? And then saying, okay, good, wait. Like, where is my heart guiding me? Okay, wait, let me investigate that, right? Because a lot of that is that energetic questioning. For some of the masculine energy right now, this is either new connections with feminine that you're feeling this on, and you're trying to like ascertain, or like not wanting to like, rush forward and interrupt what feels like a slow growth building connection that you're really feeling like that level or degree of authenticity on. Or this is masculine energy looking back at a past connection and potentially saying, is there something there that can be salvaged? Is there something there that can be saved? Is me moving in this way something that allows for that new approach or that new directionality to come in? Because this is a masculine energy, truly embodying and understanding a lesson and now wanting to actually put that into practical application for the sake of their own self, which is good. Feminine energy in separation. This is that moment that you may be feeling like the full weight of a lot of that energetic discernment, if you will, because a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, it's not the fact that there isn't masculine energy that's coming towards you. I just see it flat out. A lot of feminine energy sees and recognizes a lot of masculine energy coming towards them. It's more that power or value of discernment in terms of like, what are they bringing forth? What are they leading with? What are they bringing? What is that energetic call that's bringing them towards you? The feminine energy being able to ascertain and discern through that right now is amplifying a lot of this energy of the feminine in relation to not wanting to accidentally or inadvertently repeat a cycle of the past. That's literally the feminine energy putting that energy into valuation and into practice. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This energetic equivalent that we're seeing here of recognizing, moving into the divine union frequency right now. Again, one of the things we keep seeing is it has to do with like that energetic comfort level. Both masculine and feminine energy. For the masculine, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine energy coming into divine union. This is that feeling right now. That's that amplification point in terms of feeling like even now, a lot of the masculine energy is feeling the value and weight of the breakthrough point being, even with that clarity, what's happening with masculine energy that's built that sense of clarity, that's built that sense of understanding, that sees things with that deepened point of observation. This is masculine energy that feels like even now that power or that ability to see something from a different perspective. It's not driving them in a different direction. It is amplifying the direction of what they're building forth with the feminine. Because this is a masculine energy that again may be holding that sense of understanding of self, but it's not recalibrating and moving the masculine in a different direction. This is masculine looking at feminine being like, you're the one that brought this out in me. You're the one that helped me realize this. Like, this is that energy of masculine going like, why would I go anywhere else when I've had these breakthroughs with you? Where would anywhere else be? That's the masculine feeling that valuation point. But that's also the masculine recognizing that point was not one that was energetically elicited from a feminine. That was the meeting point between the masculine doing the work of the energetic self and then finding the counterpart that is helping to support that energetic journey. So for the masculine right now, this is again that point of understanding and saying, it's not that you made me do this. I'm doing this for myself. But this is that moment of accepting that you also brought this out in me, right? You also helped that is that moment, right? Masculine, feminine energy. Seeing a masculine energy in that modality, having even now that point of power of observation, even seeing them looking at past experiences or even energetically speaking to you about past connections. This is the feminine energy saying that your ability to articulate on that, your ability to talk about your own accountability, your ability to talk about your own failure points, like that is a feminine energy saying, I value that more than anything, because that's a feminine seeing a masculine in real time saying, I am your confidant. You are building with me in a place of clarity. And that clarity doesn't mean that you're energetically perfect. That clarity means that you're able to energetically unpack complicated things. And that's a feminine energy saying, like, more of that. Like, that's great. Like, that's wonderful, because the feminine seeing a masculine able to articulate and amplify on those things is a feminine that feels that validation point of a masculine almost saying through their words and actions, I choose you. I choose you, Pikachu. I choose you. I choose you. Because that's that moment that it feels like, again, it's like someone unloading their energetic pockets, right? So that's a feminine saying, you can tell me anything, even as it relates to the other connections. Continuing to get clarification on these points, the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is more of that modality of feeling like, again, the hard part about this is like, I want to best describe this of being like, everybody should rest. Except me. I should never rest, but everybody else should rest. It's really important that everybody rests, except me. Except me. I should not rest, but everyone else should. This is literally that energetic equivalent that we're seeing is kind of entering the heart of the divine union, which is hard because it's almost creating that space or place of someone having to energetically I have to make someone look like I'm ready to rest so that they will rest. Like, it's giving me a little bit of that type of energy, because someone being like, I can't continue to move forward in this direction and they're not going to rest. Like, I need to also amplify that. So this is giving me like a lot of that energy of like both saying like, I'll ease up if you ease. Like, it's giving me a little bit of that. But again, what are we seeing is happening right now to help navigate between what feels like it is productive, like spinning of your wheels, versus what feels like it's non-productive. The difference between whether someone is looking and saying, I am excited, versus someone saying, I am anxious, right? That's how we calibrate as to whether something feels like it is positive or whether it feels like it's not. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our star and its reversal in combination with our 10 of swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our 2 of wands. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. What are we seeing that is energetically happening right now for the energy in the divine union? This ability to almost say, like, listen, like, this is that moment of looking at something in the long term, like looking at something energetically and trying to navigate like what that effective shape looks like. So even now we see that a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is like moving in that modality of saying, like, working really hard is good. Planning is better. Being able to have that modality of recognizing the difference or the adaptability point in terms of creating something that feels like it is energetically sustainable, if you will, is what we are effectively seeing to a certain extent, that is allowing for that path work for the energy that's in the frequency. Even now we see that there's something about being able to have that. And this is energetically how the energy in the divine union frequency is helping move someone into that space of like energetic relaxation, if you will, because this is that moment of almost saying like, it's good to step back from things sometimes because they give you a little bit of energetic perspective. Right? So even now we see that the gift that the energy is doing in the divine union frequency is helping that moment of having that long view approach. Now, masculine and feminine that are coming into the divine union frequency, this is that pathwork of feeling the amplification of someone who has built a better sense of perspective on your own individuated journey. Right? Because what is the energy articulating to itself that's coming into the divine union frequency right now? This is that modality that almost feels like the expression of someone saying, it's not that I would ever ask for something negative to happen to me, but given the fact that I find myself here with you, a lot of it suddenly seems to make a lot of energetic sense. Because what we are seeing to a certain extent is that point or that observation in relation to recognizing what energetically feels like that point of pathwork in understanding the valuation and being able to see something from a higher context while also feeling the valuation in what you're creating with someone else as you go forward. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy that's moving forward in this way, that ability to identify and recognize that to a certain extent is that gift that is amplifying the energy that's moving further into the divine union frequency. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are in separation right now, one of the things that we are seeing is that ability to realize and gain some kind of energetic perspective, as it were, is what is creating right now for a lot of the energy, even if in separation, that modality of understanding in relation to your own energetic journey. Because what occurs when we suddenly have what we identify as an energetic or spiritual breakthrough? We have that moment wherein we're able to recognize and identify, not saying, right? This is energy here in separation that is almost saying to a certain extent that it's not that they would wish to have that occur, but being able to have enough of an energetic breakthrough to recognize that you can take something forward with you to a certain extent is why we see a lot of the energy in separation is building into a space or place of feeling like you've reached some kind of energetic catharsis point in relationality to your own personal journey. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 9 of Pentacles. So, masculine and feminine energy in separation, what we see that is energetically happening right now for a lot of the energy in separation. If you went through that hard work, if you went through that hard, difficult, energetic work, making that difficult journey for your own self, navigating through, trying to get back into alignment, potentially even again, almost coming into that space of energetic compassion, moving away from someone or not for the sake of wanting to energetically hurt someone, but almost for the sake of feeling like one is amplified and done everything one can energetically do to heal a situation. And then just continuing to move forward to a certain extent, that ability to do so, that amplification point is immediately creating that sense of energetic catharsis, right? It's immediately creating that point of energetic catharsis because the ability to recognize and to feel like, again, having that point, feeling that internal energetic security is almost, again, that point of reassurance that we give ourselves, that for the energy and separation that's moving in this way, that is the amplification point in terms of saying that you did not move this way for the sake of eliciting a reaction in another, but rather for the sake of knowing, right, what do we do when we move on that healing journey? We take every step knowing that it is the right direction, regardless of the energetic outcome. Regardless of the energetic outcome. Because that is the pathwork of identifying and recognizing what one feels like one ought to do, right? As opposed to moving in a way that you're moving in a way to try to elicit some kind of energetic reaction. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation, seeing that energetic, and even now, what's beautiful about this for a lot of the energy in separation, that ability to like move forward in this way is something that you are doing for the sake of your own self. And now, only now that you realize that, are you getting that energetic sign of being like, well, here's the thing you were looking for? Because this is that moment of, again, you can't just like shake the Cracker Jack box hoping to get what you aspire and desire. You have to move with that sense or that space of internal intentionality. So we see even now that a lot of this energy feels like there's a sense of like, again, alignment that's coming into play because you're moving in energetic alignment, as it were. So even now we see that this is energy that's kind of finally moved into a state or space of feeling energetically content, if you will. And then what happens energetically when you're in that moment? Like, here comes the energy. Like, this is literally energy in separation that's going, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm good by myself. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right? That's when we start to feel that energy that feels like it's an alignment to us arriving, because we've hit that moment where we've like, again, we feel that security of self that amplifies that, again, we're not moving in a direction to get a reaction. We're moving in a direction because that is this aspiration or space or place that we need to be. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. This is that modality that we are effectively seeing that is the amplification point of recognizing that feeling that you're creating together. Because what did we see that was happening over the last few weeks? Even now, we saw that a lot of energy felt like it was trying to pull you out of the divine union frequency. Either this is the energy of the breakthrough, of the understanding of coming into clarity, seeing one's own path, feeling the overwhelm of intensity of energy, feeling that and being able to hold forth into it. Or tangibly feeling energy around you that was almost feeling like they were creating that space or place. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy, that security, that energetic security is the affirmation of saying, that is the choice of moving. Like, that is a choice of saying what you're creating is the prioritization point, right? For better or for worse. That is that moment of energetically saying to another, I'm moving forward with you, not for the sake of what comes after, not for the sake of what can be received, not for the sake of what comes, like, again, not because you're shaking the prize box, but because you're energetically saying, I choose, I make the intentional choice to move energetically with you. And that is that moment that you build that sense of, again, deepening the bond of the divine union, because it is the bond of basically saying to another, I am making the energetic choice to move through with you, regardless of what occurs energetically around us, right? Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is that modality that we're effectively seeing. You're already kind of there. You're used to this to a certain extent. This has more to do with that sense of making sure that that experience is one that allows for a level or degree of energetic leisure and enjoyment. And we see even now, I don't mean leisure. Leisure is not the right word. It's that sense of, again, being able to move in a state or space that feels like it creates that sense of comfort instead of that state of perpetual anxiety. And how do we interpret the difference between what feels like it is in alignment with us versus what feels like we are pushing too hard or pushing against our own self. The difference between whether you feel like you are excited or if you are anxious. So being able to navigate through those points, we see even now the energy is looking towards the other to try to figure out if that calibration point is reached in terms of how far someone is pushing themselves versus how they're experiencing something, to recognize the valuation point between excitement versus anxiety. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Pentacles in combination with our Temperance card in its reversal. One card to clarify. Whoa, really? I can't do all these cards. Okay, we're going to do all of them. Okay, fine. We've got 4 cards coming out. All right, it's fine. There's it's really funny too because we're doing it with like the Temperance card in its reversal. So it's like, blip, like it's a little bit of that. It's fine. All right, let's get to it. What are we seeing here? Okay, and this is why we're seeing right now for the energy that's in the divine union frequency. Why this is that, like there's a lot happening. And this is even why we see, to a certain extent, when I say like, are you excited or are you happy? And excited or anxious, everybody's going, like it's going like that. Because even now we see the fact that there's like that bit of like, well, it depends. It's like, it's giving a lot of that. Because yes, obviously, to a certain extent, there's that calibration point between those two things that needs to be energetically navigated to a certain extent. But here's the thing, it's always like that. When is it not like that? It's always like that. So again, a lot of this has to do with a certain extent with the fact that like even, and this is the thing, this is the experience, like it, to a certain extent, it's, and one of the things that we see that is, one of the things that we see right now that's occurring is that moment of, again, the valuation point between recognizing what you can energetically change, what you feel is in your own valuation point to be able to energetically change versus what you feel you have to just kind of navigate to a certain extent. So we see that this is why we see energetically right now so much of the energy in the divine union frequency moving at such a high rate of capacity, if you will, because this is the energy that is almost moving in that space or place of saying, well, maybe if I move a little bit more, if I move a little bit faster, if I do a little bit more, I can navigate all of that I can't control, right? This is the energy trying to take on, that's the energy of love and compassion that's trying to take on as much as they can energetically. But the energy that's also working responsibly of that is almost trying to help ease that sentiment or ease that feeling by what is the answer of that energy, saying everything you do is enough. I know you want to do more. That's good too. That's why you're moving in that state of energetic compassion. That is the beauty of the energetic compassion. It always wants to energetically take on more. Being able to value is why the beauty of the counterpart comes to bear, because it helps someone energetically regulate the desire to take on more versus the sense of curation in terms of saying, I want to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself in the process. Thank you. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, you make it easier. Like this is literally the energetic equivalent of saying you make it easier. You make that experience. You make the experience of having to feel like I need to navigate a bunch of things that I don't have control over exciting instead of anxious. Again, finding the joy, amplifying the joy, building in that sense or that space. Right? That is that moment of almost saying, not only do you make it easy, you make it energetically worthwhile. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is the energy of almost finding that within your own self. This is the energy healing from circumstances or situations, saying, I want to find counterpart energy beyond, and this is how we see the feminines healing themselves right now. This is feminine energy in separation, saying, I mean, a passionate connection is good, but a passionate connection doesn't help navigate everything that is energetically happening. Like the emotion, like that energy, it cannot be, when you're moving with an energy that's only seeking out a sustainability point in relationality to their own needs. It doesn't help. It just takes more. It just takes more away. So even now we see that the feminine energy is coming into that state of saying, I can be everything to someone if they give back to me. This is literally the feminine energy, like almost going into that, like the bar is on the floor kind of moment, in saying, I'm just asking for what I'm energetically offering. And so we see even now for the feminine energy, not wanting the energy to come towards them, like again, trying to pluck the fruit without watering the tree. This is the feminine energy saying, I can't do it because it just adds one more burden in a situation that feels like it's already, moving against me, right? This is feminine energy literally manifesting and saying, I want someone that feels like they can get their hands dirty. I want someone that recognizes that you have to give forth if you care to receive. This is almost even now, and this is why even now we see a lot of the feminine energy utilizing that power of discernment, because there's a lot of feminine energy feeling like that energy of the masculine coming towards them in separation, and them going, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Like, what are you doing here? Who sent you? Don't have any. Different castle. We already have one. Like, this is literally the feminine energy being like, I already got one. Sorry, next place. Like, really. This is really why a lot of the feminine energy right now. And what's the masculine energy in healing doing? The masculine energy in healing is, again, in alignment with the feminine in healing. If you've come into this process too, you also recognize and realize this. You're also trying to build from a place of openness and authenticity, but you're also recognizing that a lot of the feminine energy is completely exhausted from a bunch of masculine energy coming towards them from a space of illusion, which you just healed yourself from. So what is happening right now for a lot of the masculine energy that's coming towards the feminine this way, being like, I know what you're worried about. I know. And what's the masculine energy saying to the feminine? Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. I know. And what's the masculine energy doing right now to the feminine that's moving in this way? I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to energetically prove to you my sincerity. I'm going to energetically prove to you. And this is, again, why? Because this is a masculine energy, not doing this, saying, I'm not doing this because I want something from you. I'm doing this because I would do it anyway. Right? That's literally the masculine energy saying, I'm going to show you that this is how I move, because I'm not doing this to try to elicit something from you. I'm coming here to show you that that is how I move. This is like the masculine saying, my word is my bond. And this is the masculine energy saying, I'm going to show up and I'm going to keep doing this. Not again, we're not saying that this is an act of persistence. This isn't a masculine energy that's not taking an energetic no for an answer. This is a masculine energy that is seeing the trepidation, okay? Seeing the uncertainty of a feminine that is showing that ability to want to build forth, but also the trepidation of an experience wherein they are cautious and saying, we are moving at your pace. You can take all the time you need, but I'm also committed to showing you that I am energetically legitimate, right? That's the difference between, again, knocking at a door where you're not necessarily energetically desired versus moving towards someone and saying energetically, I'm willing to move at that rate of authenticity. I'm being authentic in what I'm aspiring for, and I'm willing to take as long as it energetically requires if you desire the same in kind. That is the difference. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. The energy right now, we already just did all of these, so we're going to continue because that's going to be a lot to catch up on. Continuing between our Knight of Swords and our Two of Wands. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. In separation. We're going to start with separation. The energy in separation right now, moving through this modality right now, this is exactly why. And this is what's beautiful about the energy that's encountering each other in this experience right now. Right? Because this is that modality of masculine and feminine in separation that's coming into some path work. And especially for the masculine, this is feeling like a lot of this personal path work of restoration, right? This is the masculine energy in separation, having that moment of breakthrough, internal breakthrough that is guiding yourself forward by, again, following your heart space. What is the masculine energy doing right now that's helping them, if in separation, in terms of the way that they're energetically moving? They're not doing something for the sake or for the purpose of eliciting an energetic reaction on the part of the feminine energy. They're doing what their energetic heart is desiring them to do. They are they're energetically abandoning the outcome, because that is the difference between someone moving with intentionality, saying to oneself, I would do this anyway. And that's not that selfish act of saying, I'm doing what I want regardless of how you feel about it. This is almost masculine energy reaching forward to feminine and saying, I'm just trying to lead forth from a place of authenticity. Do with it what you will. I'm not expecting an energetic outcome on it. I'm doing this as an act of self-restoration, right? That's that moment when you communicate to someone and say, regardless of how you respond to this, I want you to know I'm doing this because I need to energetically do this, right? For a feminine energy in separation, seeing a masculine energy authentically communicating in this fashion, again, speaking from their heart space, releasing the energetic outcome. That, in a way, is, again, a feminine energy that feels energetically a safe space that they're starting to build with a masculine, because that is, again, the equivalent of a masculine being incredibly brave, dropping their energetic armor to encounter and experience feminine from a place of absolute authenticity. So even now, that's that moment that, like, if a feminine's experiencing that, it can almost feel like the energy of a feminine being somewhat taken off guard, if you will. Because that's that moment of, again, energetically seeing like what the feminine is truly aspiring for in connection with masculine. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. One of the things that we are seeing is for the energy coming into the divine union, this ability, this bond that you're potentially creating with another person as you move deeper into the heart of the divine union. This is that moment that feels like, again, and I want to say, it feels like that mixture of excitement and anxiety, right? Because it's that moment that you're both excited about the future that you're energetically creating, but you're also feeling that anxiety in terms of what it energetically took to get to this point, right? It amplifies both energetic directions, like that sense of the future, the sense of the past, the sense of the future, the sense of the past. And that's that moment that feels like you're trying to like basically do everything you can to like clear that space energetically between masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is even now why we see that a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is just putting a lot of time, effort, and energy in helping someone energetically navigate through their own anxiety or their own energetic burdens, because that ability to do so, that ability to help alleviate, is effectively helping the energy navigate in relationality to where they aspire and desire to be, which is again that moment that feels like the amplification point and saying, the excitement should outweigh the anxiety, right? Because if there's anxiety, that needs to be investigated. If that's excitement, then that's a cause for celebration, right? So even now we see that that's a lot of that internal journeying that also the energy like within the divine union may be exploring to try to amplify and articulate what is the difference between what feels like you are gravitating towards it with excitement versus where those anxiety points are, right? So, because that's like desiring to touch the hot place versus not desiring to touch the hot plate. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Wands in combination with our Nine of Pentacles. One card to clarify, please. This is what we see. I'm not surprised to see this. We've been seeing this card coming up a lot. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is why we see that there's so much of that investigation right now, potentially in relationality to anything that feels like it's eliciting that sense of anxiety in you right now. Because what we're energetically seeing to a certain extent is, again, that is almost like that observational point of the internal GPS system that we're recognizing and identifying is like almost energetically coming into play, as it were, right now, which has to do with navigating one's own everyday experience. That's why we even see there may be a lot of that fastidiousness in relationality to points of anxiety, because this is that moment that almost amplifies and says, like, it's like that grain of sand rolling down the hill can become a mountain. It's like that princess in a pea effect. Something small can become something large very quickly. So we see even now that ability to adapt, that ability to recognize is in a way that power or amplification of energetic discernment, if you will, in relation to what the energy in the divine union is experiencing right now, because this is that moment of wanting to like almost anticipate and recognize what feels like it is a positive versus what feels like it is a negative. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union right now, this energetic equivalent, if you will, is again, when you're entering the divine union frequency, it feels like that amplification of both what you've created versus anything that's outside of what you can create, and the anxieties about what you can't control. So we see even now that same level or degree of discernment is effectively or energetically happening right now for a lot of the energy that is coming into the divine union frequency. Because like I said, a lot of that energetic intensity that you may just feel like you had to navigate through, it's not so much that it's not there. It just feels like now it's like that moment that it's like around what you've effectively or energetically are trying to create. So what are you trying to do with it? You're trying to navigate it as best as you energetically can. Because this is that moment that like when we change our prioritization point to what we are trying to create with another, it can reorient in terms of our own perception on the situation or the cycles that are around us. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation. This is that moment that feels like, again, a sense of clarity and perspective that is potentially happening right now from some point of energetic distance that you have maintained and achieved over some circumstance or situation. Particularly, this may be feeling like that tipping point where you're potentially looking back on something that you moved away from. And while you may be still feeling like some of that gravitational pull towards it, you're looking at it now with more of a sense of energetic caution, because you're starting to feel the peace that you may have been like moving towards or trying to find in the sense of energetically moving away from something in the first place, right? And it's giving you that ability to be able to speak upon, giving you that ability to have some perspective. Continuing to get clarification on our Nine of Pentacles in combination with our Four of Swords in its reversal, in combination with our Three of Pentacles in its reversal, in combination with our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal, in combination with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I'm not surprised. I mean, this is what we're energetically seeing to a certain extent, because we're seeing right now for masculine and feminine energy, you know, in the divine, even like in separation, right? This is getting a better perspective. Like the further you get away from something, the more you can see. That's all I can keep seeing. The further you get away from something, the more you can see. So we see that for a lot of the energy that did that difficult work of trying to facilitate healing by creating some energetic distance, what's interesting is for a lot of the energy that's moving in that way, you're getting more perspective on why something wasn't energetically working. But it's not just coming from the experience of the other person. It's coming from that moment of observation on what you yourself can energetically change. So we see even now, a lot of the energy that's probably navigating through this right now is almost like having a lot of these moments, potentially even having a lot of these conversations with new energy, being like, you know, I couldn't see it when I was there. You know, it's harder when you're energetically in the heart of something, but now it's like that energy that's saying, you know, I've gotten enough of a distance on it. I've gotten enough of like a time to think about something. I can see, you know, I have that clarity. I have that perspective. So even now we see energetically that, you know, that is coming through right now as a lot of energy. For feminine, it's creating more of this sense of, I want to say, cautiousness in relationality to like building forth with masculine. And with masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, it's creating more of that space of wanting to build further clarity. Wanting to build with clarity with feminine, right? That authenticity aspect. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is that anxiety coming into play in relationality to anything you feel like may be causing some kind of energetic anxiety point or threat to the energetic connection. Like we just almost like saw this to a certain extent over the last few weeks, like that sense of either feeling like the intensity of what you're feeling was amplifying fears, a lot of energy pushing through their own abandonment wounds to proceed forward, is almost like building that connection point in terms of someone like saying to someone like, I don't want to lose you. I want to do everything I can to sustain what we're creating together, right? So what we're seeing here is that energy, or that energetic equivalent of the energy, feeling the volume of moving through the intensity point and feeling that bond deepen even further, but holding that fear in place, because recognizing that fear was also that like explanation of love. Like that anxiety is the amplification of love. The opposite of fear, love, is not fear. Like that is that moment of like moving through the fear, like is in a way like there's like where the love is, like, you know. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy moving through what feels like a personal breakthrough point, pushing through your own fears to kind of love through anyway, or feeling like there were tangible things in the way of you trying to move and maintain a connection. They both are that moment of not letting that amplification of anxiety consume an experience that should be one that's built on joy, right? Turning it into excitement, turning it into excitement. What is the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency doing? It's not that you're not, again, it's going back and forth, but trying to amplify the positive, trying to say, if there's too much anxiety, what can we fix to remove some of that anxiety? How can we utilize that? If there is an anxiety, anxiety should only come towards the things that we can energetically control. What can we do to energetically either control what we can and allow for that space or place of easement for the rest? Continuing to get, and it's hard because even now we see that moment or that energetic point for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union feels like that expressive or that expansion point in terms of identifying what is almost energetically out of your hands. But even still, we see that even with that energy that is having those moments of saying that there are things that are energetically out of their hands, what is the energy saying? I am there. I am there for you as much as I can be. And rest assured, in the spaces that I can't be, I will also be there with you. Continuing to get clarity on these points right now between our Six of Swords in its reversal and our Tower. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Strength card in its reversal. It's very vulnerable. It's a vulnerable moment. Moving into that space or place, moving into that energy of allowing oneself like an opportunity to come into that space of energetically like having that frequency of love. It is a generally energetically difficult moment because it feels a lot like that expansion point in feeling like you're amplifying that vulnerability, right? We see even now that energy or that frequency of love is one that feels like it is very much invested in energetic surrender. But we see even now, that's why a lot of the energy that's moving in the frequency of love is moving in that frequency of almost articulating to oneself, like that sense of willingly surrendering, right? Because that is the vibration, or that is the frequency of love. Being able to say that isn't a space or place that you move into, like trying to overcome. That's a space or place that you just move into and you energetically surrender in. So even now, we see that ability to do so in the divine union frequency, it feels very difficult because a lot of it feels like a lot of this burden of being able to navigate that energetic grief in terms of what you want to bring into circumstances and situations versus what is like energetically beyond your own capacity to control. But what is the energy of the divine union saying to one another around some of those anxieties or fears? Me too. Me too. You're not alone in those moments. I am there with you, right? Continuing forward on this, the energy coming into the divine union frequency, this is feeling the preciousness. This is falling into the frequency of love and then feeling that anxiety of building into that frequency and building that sense of how protective one becomes, but not wanting that anxiety of protecting what one creates to override the expression of enjoying what one has. So we see even now for a lot of the energy entering the divine union frequency, navigating that space of trying to enjoy what one has without feeling the amplification of fear in relation to having it, is a lot of that work that's happening right now for the energy that's just entering the divine union frequency. And it does feel like the energetic equivalent of surrender, but surrender that feels like it has a lot of strength behind it. It takes a lot of strength to love. It takes a lot of strength to be able to allow oneself that level or degree of vulnerability. And we see here that for a lot of the energy that's moving in that way, coming into that point of fluidity, it's difficult, but it's worth it. For masculine and feminine energy that is coming in, that is in separation, this is a lot of energetic forgiveness and acceptance in terms of what you could energetically change versus what you have to energetically accept. For a lot of the energy right now, that perspective, moving away from something, you've reached enough of a valuation point, you've moved far enough away from something that you may be able to finally see fully the full extent of what you are energetically moving away from. You're understanding it's hard because it doesn't mean that you didn't still desire a better outcome. But you're coming into a state of getting the grace to be able to understand why that wasn't energetically achievable there. So even that gift, that ability to look at something and say, I really hope for something better, but I understand why I wasn't getting it there. I understand the full clarity of that point. That in itself is the moment that the healing comes back to you because that's that moment that, again, you can bear the pain of not receiving something by understanding why you weren't, like for a lot of the energy, this is like, I wasn't receiving something there, but that's because I was looking in a place that it could not be found, right? While for a lot of the other, for the masculine energy, this is that moment of saying, I was building a world of illusion and the house of cards fell down, right? Both of those energies taking that moment of surrender and saying, I accept and I understand. It doesn't mean that I didn't get the outcome I desire, but I understand why. Continuing through on this right now, the energy, and that is in itself, like that in itself is that moment of energetic grace, because it creates that space or place of understanding that allows an ability to be able to perpetuate and persist forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the Tower and our Chariot in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Swords. One of the things that we're seeing for a lot of the energy right now in separation is, again, the gift is that moment or modality. A lot of this energy moved away from something with that active energetic compassion, feeling like there's nothing else that they could do to be able to bring healing to something, putting one foot in front of the other. What is the affirmation of the energy that's not sure where they're going, not sure what that direction is? It is the affirmation of saying, I'm not going back to the place that hurt me. I'm not going back to the place that required I heal. For a lot of the energy that's coming into that healing, recognizing that that healing gesture is now one that you are receiving for your own self. The affirmation of basically saying, I might not know which direction I'm headed in, but I sure as heck know which way I'm not going. I sure as heck know I know what's back there. I know fully what was back there. Oh my gosh, it looks worse. The further I get, the worse it looks. The further I get, the worse it looks. Like the further I keep looking back, it's even worse than what I thought it was. Like that's that moment that feels like that is the healing moment, because the ability to look back and go, oh my gosh, it's worse. The ability to look back and go, it was even worse than I thought it was. The further I get from it, that is also the gift of healing. Right? Because that's that moment that motivates you, because it's that understanding that comes through that you're like, whew, like that's that point that you start moving away from something and being like, wow, every time I look back, it's like the opposite of a Monet. It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Like that is that gift to a certain extent that is helping a lot of the energy and separation build that affirmation forward, that understanding and clarity that you're receiving the further that you energetically get from something. Masculine and feminine energy. That is the gift. You see, guys are always scared of this card. That is the gift of a Tower moment. And then the guides say, you're welcome. You're welcome. Masculine and feminine energy that are coming into the divine union frequency. This modality, this ability, if you will, this point of recognition that we're seeing. This is that moment that, again, that observational point has a lot to do either with the energy from the past or the energy that's currently around you. Because even now there's some of that weight or that moment. What happens when we build in a space of love, when we create that energetic space of love? It shines, it makes a shadow, it makes things look worse, right? Everything falls into stark contrast. So I want you to recognize that right now for a lot of the energy moving into the heart of the divine union frequency, because your own ability of suddenly seeing things and seeing things even worse than they are, that's not so much as much, I need to stress this isn't so much of a lesson that's coming through as it is so much as you entering the energy that when you're moving in that way, everything's going to look a little bit worse, because it's the amplification, because where you are standing is like casting a lot of energetic shadows around you. So just be a little bit mindful of that as well, because again, not allowing that anxiety to override your excitement right now for the energy coming into the divine union frequency is really important, because that's how you avoid self-sabotaging. Okay? Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this ability to be able to navigate this ability to be able to energetically bear that burden, that is the beauty and the value and the power of the energy that's in the heart of the divine union frequency. It's heavy, but we can lift heavy things, right? That's in a way, like a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is like, that's the thing with it. They're like rolling up their sleeves. They're like, give me some more. I got some more work to do. I don't need to take a minute now. I've got a lot I got to do here, right? A lot of this energy is just trying to like, what is this energy? This energy is basically saying, I need to do as much as I can here. I got to like do everything I can to try to like create that space or try to extend that space of positivity, right? Even now we see that a lot of the energy right now, that is that moment that feels like the amplification of being able to recognize and feel. And that's why the energy around that is looking and saying, be mindful of what you can energetically carry. Don't overburden yourself, because you're going to not be useful to anyone if you overburden yourself. You have to move into that space or place of finding what feels like it is like something positive to be able to carry, versus allowing the architecture of everything that you want to do overwhelm the joy of doing it. So we see even now that sense of like fastidiousness is arriving right now for a lot of the energy in the frequency, because it's the amplification of care, of energetic care that is entering circumstances and situations. Final card for today's spread between our Strength card in its reversal and our Seven of Swords. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Hierophant. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. We see even now that a lot of that energy that we are seeing, even now we're recognizing that for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, a lot of this feels to a certain extent like you are, I want to put it this way, I want to bet the best way to describe this is it's requiring a level or degree of energetic creativity, as it were, in relationality to how you navigate circumstances and situations right now. Because what we're energetically seeing to a certain extent, even now, what is happening for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency? Working through becoming your highest version of self, doing everything that you can to move into that modality, while also recognizing and also not wanting to push yourself too hard, right? That ability to effectively discern what that point is. It varies energetically for everyone, as it were. It's a move. I want to say it's a moving goalpost. Like there isn't a certain calibration point that someone can reach to identify what that energetically is. So even now we see that what the energy in the divine union frequency is navigating within is almost saying to one another, how is this, is this you moving into your fullest expression of self, or are you energetically pushing yourself too far, right? That is that empathy, that energetic empathetic moment that we see that is created, that shows that capacity of love, right? That's that moment that feels like that act of energetic love, which is saying, I want what's best for you, but I want what's best for you, right? Like, I want you to be your best self, but I also want what's best for you. Like, that is the energy of compassion, also regulated with encouragement, right? It's a fine line. It requires us to be very fastidious. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into, okay, I can say that again. It is the difference between, I want you to be your best self, but I also want what's best for you, right? Finding that energetic equivalent between one, being able to achieve, doing the work necessary to become the highest self, while also working in a place of being very mindful energetically that you are in a good place as you do so, operating from a place of joy instead of anxiety. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency. That energetic equivalency point is feeling less like pathwork of discernment in the heart of the divine union frequency. It is feeling the anxiety of the energy of seeing the equivalent of when you're building forth with another energy. Everything around you sometimes falls into stark contrast. So making sure, as I said, that that sensation does not propel you into a state of anxiety. Navigating forth through it with a sense of joy is also incredibly valuable to the experience. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. Your own ability to suddenly look back and see something with a clarity that makes it seem even worse, getting that sense of perspective that one can only achieve from moving away from a circumstance or situation that you are trying to initiate healing on. Even now, the interesting hurdle around this is there's a point of uncertainty that is effectively energetically happening right now. These are not energies that are moving with a lot of expediency to come back into energetic union. That's why we see even now there's a bit of that slow approach happening, because if anything, a lot of this energy right now is now in a space that they're not in separation, waiting to come back into separation with someone. They're moving through what they can best articulate as energetic recovery from a connection. Bottom of the deck, and that takes time. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is our Seven of Wands. You know, the thing about this type of energy, and I need to say right now, I want everybody to be grounding. I want everyone to be drinking their water. I don't want anyone to be getting reactionary right now, because we've got a couple combination cards here that I'm not a big fan of. Specifically, we've got this Temperance card in combination with our Seven of Wands here. So this can often be a little bit of that feeling of wanting to kind of be more confrontational today. If you're going to be confrontational, navigate through it. Remember the difference between healthy conflict, something that is productive, two energies that aspire and desire the same thing but have different ways of going about it, versus energy that feels like it just creates conflict, where conflict isn't energetically necessary. Because I see that a lot of this right now is about some kind of energetic conservation of energy that is required here. So being able to navigate between what you feel is energetically productive versus what just feels like it is extraneous and just creating more of the same is going to be really important today. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again